This is With the First Pick, the CBS Sports NFL Draft Podcast. This is episode 72. I'm Ryan Wilson. That's Rick Spielman. And today, Rick, it's the finale of the With the First Pick Summer Scouting School Series, and we're talking cornerbacks and safeties. A year ago, 4.5 cornerbacks went in round one, or maybe last summer, I should say. A year ago, we were looking at a lot of these cornerbacks, and I'm counting Joey Porter in that 4.5, Rick, who went to the top of the second round, 32nd overall. We can talk about that later as to the hows and whys. The other guys who went before him, Devin Witherspoon, Emmanuel Forbes, Christian Gonzalez, and, of course, Deonte Banks went off the board before Joey Porter. All told, 9 corners and 2 safeties went in the first 2 rounds. Now, I don't know if we'll see that many go that high next spring, but, Rick, I'll ask you this. Could it be the case that our collective CB1 in 2024, and I think we have the same guys who sit here right now, would have been the top corner in last year's class?
I think he would have potential to do that. I think it's what he's going to run, and that may be the biggest question on him. But he has every trait that you can imagine when you sit there and check all the boxes as you evaluate this player that we'll talk about soon, to be a shutdown type corner in the NFL.
And a little tease there. He also has one of the best names in football history. Can you think of a better name off the top of your head than the young man we're going to talk about in a second?
No, that's a pretty good one. Although Bumper Pool is pretty good too.
Bumper Pool is a good one. Bumper Pool did not go in the first round, however. No. So, but he had a first
linebacker from Arkansas, right?
had a great name, no doubt about it. All right, we'll get to that, and then we'll take a look at some of our favorite cornerbacks and safeties in this upcoming class. So stick around. And if you missed it on Monday, me and Rick recapped the weekend's preseason action. We looked at how some of these rookies and young quarterbacks performed. A lot of good, some not so great. You can check that out in the feed, of course. And we also looked at standout efforts from a bunch of rookies who didn't play quarterback, and that was a lot of fun to talk about. So, again, check all that stuff out in the old podcast feed. And finally, if you like what we do here, take a second, hit the old thumbs up button on the YouTubes at NFL on CBS, and subscribe and leave a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. It helps us grow the show and spread the word. All right, Rick. Here we go. Talking cornerbacks. Oh, wait a second. Debo sent me a note. We're having a little special segment of trivia for Rick Spielman.
I'm the worst trivia player ever. So, okay.
This is there's an added twist here. And you already won Paramount Plus, so you can't win. I'll turn it on for you. How about that if you get these right?
Yeah, okay. I will call you so I can actually watch what I've won, because I still can't figure out how to put it on the TV. But when I do fly Delta, I get Paramount Plus on those flights.
There you go. Not a sponsor, but they are also giving you Paramount Plus. All right, here it is. Here's the little twist for the Spielman for the trivia. Excuse me. It's Rick Spielman trivia. So let's see if you know these. All right, you ready?
Yep.
Number 1. What body part did Massillon linebacker John Mayles break, prompting Rick Spielman to take over his starting role?
Oh, God. A leg?
He broke his hand. John broke his hand.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember John. Sorry, John.
Jeez, come on. All right, here we go. You'll get this one. I feel much better about it. What did Rick Spielman say when asked about how he felt after entering a playoff game against McKinley with a sack?
Good.
Great. You were close. You're a little more excited than good. You said great. How many touchdown passes? This is number 3. How many touchdown passes did Rick Spielman throw as a high school senior?
17?
11.
Okay.
Grade yourself a little high on that one. All right. Last one, Rick. Here we go. Against which opponent did Rick Spielman have the best passing game of his high school career? And here are the numbers. 15 of 24 for 316 yards. What year was that?
1980?
316. That's like, if you do that for inflation, that's 800 yards in today's yards. 15 of 24 for 316 with 3 touchdowns. Who'd you play against?
Mansfield Senior.
Oh, look at that, Devo. He got that one. Great. So Devo put these questions together for you. And I know you don't want to talk about it, but we'll move on quickly. Congratulations.
Let's go. Move on.
To our very own, well, I got to read you what Devo wrote because it's sort of funny. To our very own Rick Spielman for going into the Massillon Wall of Champions. Massillon High Schools where of course, Rick Spielman went to school. And as Devo notes here in my copy, just 29 years after his brother.
Yeah.
And Paul Brown.
It'll be me, my brother, Paul Brown.
And I saw Devo and I were looking at the press release. Devin Smith's going in. I didn't know he went to Massillon, the former Ohio State player who wide receiver who played for the Jets for a little bit, got hurt, I believe. So yeah, congratulations, Rick. I know you don't like talking about all the successes you've had, but that was fun.
All right.
You're terrible at Rick Spielman trivia too, it turns out.
No, yeah, I may be the worst at that.
You got 1 out of 4.
Yeah. Well, see, that tells you when you interview a player, if he can tell you and rattle off his stats and know everything about him, that he's got a pretty self-inflated ego. I was more worried about the team. And I could tell you that we struggled my senior year.
Oh, really?
Yes. And then our coach was a lot of heat on him because we would think we went 7-3 that year.
And, 7-3 is struggling.
Yes. Yeah. If you didn't get to the state championship, my junior year, we went to the state championship and got down in Nippert Stadium in Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
And
it's still called Nippert Stadium too, I believe, right?
I don't know, because they redone the stadium down there, Cincinnati, and we got our arses handed to us pretty good by Cincinnati Moeller.
Oh, home of Ken Griffey, and yes. I think Pete Rose went there too. Pete Rose Jr. maybe.
And yeah, but they were a parochial school, private school, and they were bringing guys in from Texas, from Kentucky, from all over.
So it's a private school money, Rick. So okay, you played quarterback and linebacker. How much younger is Chris than you? You guys played together, right?
Yeah, he was a sophomore my senior year.
And what he played linebacker, and what else did he play?
He played linebacker and running back.
I was going to say, I was going to guess running back. He feels like a running back mentality.
And did you know that in high school, he was actually on the Wheaties box?
I did not know that. Here's the thing. You're talking about 7-3, the coach being on the hot seat. I went to a high school, and this is no joke, where it was so historically terrible year to year, the football program, that one of the players on the football team wrote it's either the front, I think it was actually the front page, the first page inside the Sports Illustrated, that was a one pager, or the back page where he wrote 800 words on why our team was so terrible, made it into Sports Illustrated, and that was the biggest development, the biggest success for our high school program, that we made it into Sports Illustrated for all the wrong reasons. Very proud of Nate Taylor, I believe.
There
look at that. Wow. If you're watching, if you're listening, you have to go over to the YouTube to see good old Chris Spielman in that mustache.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So that was national, or was that regional?
National.
Oh my gosh.
He was one of the top high school players, or top amateur athletes coming out, and was on the Wheaties box.
So he looks like he might be 6 feet, 185.
Yeah, maybe 185, 190.
Yeah. Here's the most depressing thing about that picture. Number one, his waist looks like it's about 20 inches. Number two, my son, who's 16, has that same haircut right now. It's coming back. Thank God he can't grow a mustache. All right, that was fun, Rick. We'll move on. Congratulations. We're really happy for you, even if you don't want to talk about it. But that's a great accomplishment for you.
Great. Let's go.
You need to do better on your Rick Spielman trivia, though. All right. When we see Chris, I'll ask him those trivia questions. I bet he gets them. All right, let's talk about these cornerbacks here. We teased our guy Kool-Aid McKinstry. Here's another, I hate to bring it up, another trivia fact for you. What is Kool-Aid's Christian name? What's his given name?
I don't know that one. I just have known him by Kool-Aid.
JaQuincy.
JaQuincy.
So I love his name is JaQuincy McKinstry. That's fantastic. That's a great name. But Kool-Aid, obviously, is the guy we were talking about earlier. Oh, geez. Debo just informs me that we have a poll for the comparisons between your comp for Kool-Aid and my comp for Kool-Aid. Hopefully that means I win. We'll see. But Kool-Aid obviously stood out last year on that Alabama team, and that defense was obviously very good. Had a lot of guys drafted, Will Anderson and Brian Branch among them. But he has a chance to be special. I'll give you his unofficial numbers here. He is unofficially 6'1", 188. He's listed as a 4.37 guy. I actually question if he ran that fast on tape. He didn't look like he was that fast on tape. Not that he was slow. But just something I'm curious about. He only had one interception in 2022, and sometimes that's a function of teams not targeting you. Sometimes it's just you're not catching the football. So it happened to be against Austin Peay as well, so not a top-flight talent program. No offense to Austin Peay. That said, I thought he was smooth in his route in terms of staying with receivers on deep routes, in terms of comebacks. He was a willing tackler. I had a little questions at times about his ball awareness, but that's not the end of the world. Just been the game I was watching, but obviously a lot to like here with JaQuincy.
Yeah, and I could just tell you that I agree with a lot of your assessment, which is hard to believe, but I do.
Thank you.
Did not have a lot of interceptions, but the one thing I disagree, I think he has great ball instincts and awareness.
Okay.
And he does a great job at the catching point of stripping the receiver of the ball. And I've seen that numerous times. And I was fortunate enough to be down at Alabama for a scrimmage last Saturday. And he is everything that we are talking about, and everything is advertised. He is long, he is athletic, he is smooth, he is very instinctive. He looks like a natural corner. As one old scout told me, when he was born, he probably came out backpedaling. He's so smooth.
I wonder what his mom would say to that.
But don't forget, he also has punt return skills.
Right.
And,
that's right. That's a good point.
And he is steady there. I don't think he's a game breaker as a punt returner, but he can also give you some punt return in case you needed it as well. But all the guys that I looked at, he was definitely the top corner on my initial list here.
Right. And just to be clear, the guys we're talking about are guys that we like. They're not necessarily our top 5. And we'll mention a few names at the end of players that are also going to be in that conversation. So Kool-Aid, we both agree, is our number 1. I think I have it written down here. And then we sort of go off script here in terms of the next few guys we have that we watch and how we rank them. Next up.
Well, wait a second. You're going.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
God, you are like so. Will you get back into the game? Okay. Do you want me to take over, Debo? Because he is losing his mind.
He just
have to
like
do
6 things.
Yeah, we have to do games that we like to want to see matchups. There's a lot of things before we move on to the next guy.
I'm worried about this comp poll. That's what's preoccupying my mind right now. So, all right. So let's do the game first and then the draft range, and then we'll save the comp for the last part, right, just to build the suspense. All right. Which game? You said you're interested in watching the LSU and Texas games. Tell me why.
Yeah, because Napers, who we both liked and we think is a top 5 receiver at LSU, if he matches up with him. And then I thought last year watching the Texas game that out of any of the games that may have been one of the games that he struggled a little bit. And you got Worthy from Texas, who is a skinny beanpole but can run like lightning.
Yep.
So I'm anxious to see him matched up against probably the 2 best safeties or the 2 best receivers that he'll face this year.
So we talked about Xavier Worthy. We talked about both the players, but Xavier Worthy coming out of Texas, he was unofficially listed at 6'1", 160, which is somehow 28 pounds less than McKinstry, who looks quite not frail, but thin on tape. So we'll see where these guys are. I didn't think Worthy looked that skinny. But anyway, those are certainly 2 games worth watching. You mentioned Neighbors as well, the wide receiver for LSU. And that matchup, I think we both agreed top 15 is the floor for Kool-Aid unless something goes horribly wrong.
Correct, unless he ends up. And the biggest question will be the speed. And that's why you'll be able to see there's time speed like we talked about in some of the other ones, and then there's play speed. And I think he plays fast enough because I see him stay on top of receivers when he gets extended down the field. The biggest question I have is makeup speed. So if he does get behind a receiver on a double move or something, can he make up that distance if he initially gets beat?
So let me ask you this. What if he runs a 4.55 and he plays like we expect him to play, and he doesn't play at 4.55?
There'll be some teams concerned, just like, just an example that we talked about on the rookies that we watched last week coming out of preseason week 1. Brian Branch did not run fast, but yet when you watch him on tape and you watch him in that first preseason game, he was fast, and he plays a lot faster than maybe he timed. So, and I think Kool-Aid plays a lot faster than he'll probably time. But I do want to see if he has that makeup speed, and one of the games that you'll potentially see that is when he goes against Worthy from Texas.
You make a good point, Rick, and
thank you.
Yeah, I say that all the time though, because I appreciate and respect all that you do. But hey, listen, man, Brian Branch went in the middle of the 2nd round. If he ran a 4.4 flat,
he'd have been a 1st round pick.
No questions asked. So that's a good point. So all right, Kool-Aid, I hope you run fast, my man. All right, what are the comps here? You want to go first? Or you want me to go first?
Go ahead.
All right, this one's going to blow your mind. Marshawn Lattimore, former Ohio State. Oh, what? You don't hate it?
No, I love all your comps because I win.
I can I can tell by your initial reaction though, at least you weren't disgusted by the comp.
I
So
don't know if he runs as fast
yeah,
as
fair enough.
Lattimore.
Fair
That's
enough.
that's why I couldn't come up with that comp, but I can see the cover skills and the ball skills that
All right.
Lattimore has.
Well, listen,
So,
whatever happens on the poll, I consider this a moral victory because you didn't just throw up when I said the
no,
comp's
I
name.
never throw it up because I respect all the hard work and whatever pewter you use and whatever program you use to try to come up with comps. I just try to come up with the first guy that pops into my head as I'm sitting there watching him.
And who was the first guy or the first guys, plural?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Asante Samuel Jr. and Senior because I thought when they came out, they both had very good corner skills, very good ball skills. But the question on them was, can they run fast enough? And both Junior and Senior have become very good corners in the league. And that's why I went with those comps.
Was the comp for oh gosh, here we go. Oh, wait,
God.
Here we go. If you're listening, please go over to YouTube as quickly as possible because I have won. We need an alarm bell, a celebration chime, Debo, because I've won another comp poll. 64%, Rick, almost 2/3 of the voters.
How many voted?
631.
Oh, okay. Well, we'll see. That's good. Debo's again doing the pool thing where he's like swaying the pools because he's the only one that has access to them.
I love that when you win, there's no question about it. And when you lose, it's rigged. I don't know where you got that from. Debo notes that the final tally, because we're done. This is it. No more polls. You won 6-3.
Great. So I'm excited for the poll on our predictions on where these guys are going to go and where they actually end up.
By the way, that's 6-3. That your great response is the same response that your head coach gave when he went 7-3.
Yeah,
not very excited.
Yeah. No, I lost. Yeah, I lost 3, which is ridiculous.
So to me, so was the comp for Asante Samuel Jr. his father coming out? Was that a popular one?
Yeah, I think I'm just because of the awareness and the instincts and coverage, but the question on those guys were the speed. Lattimore didn't have question on his speed. So that's where I am trying to struggle to put my mind and wrap my head around that comp.
I get it. All right, I think Debo has a little fun game for us. What do you have here, Debo? College football's all – oh, this is great. College football's all-name team entering 2023. So Oklahoma has someone named General Booty. Quavassier Smoke. Oh, I remember him. All right. Who's this? DeColdis Crawford. This is fantastic. Louisiana Tech. And then Darelis Clark, Defiance College. I'm not sure. You know where Defiance is, Rick?
No.
Fat Watts, PHAT Fat, pretty hot and tempting. Chris Tucker fans. Tulane. Rowdy Beers. That was definitely Rick's nickname as a Saluki. Florida International for old Rowdy Beers. Parker Titsworth. I don't know if we can say that out loud, from Ohio. Shout out to Parker. Jaden Muskrat. Auburn after transferring from Tulsa. Tiger Shanks. That's Pete Prisco's golf game, UNLV.
Oh, worse.
Dodger Saucer, Iowa State. Fish McWilliams. That is my new favorite player, UAB. Octavius Oxendide, Kentucky. Huh. I have to look out for him. Shidasilla from Boston College. Chief Borders, Nebraska after transferring from Florida. What's his name? Memorable
Factor.
Thank you. He went to Duke. He's a smart guy. Unbelievable. The guy's name's Pig Cage.
Come on, these aren't real, are they, Debo?
LSU. Mobility? Is that a phrase that kids
Mobility.
Mobility. Oh, shout out to Mobility. My bad. I got your name wrong, Mo. And then, of course, Kool-Aid is on the list as well. Major Burns out of LSU. Storm Duck, who we thought might come out last year. He returned to school, transferred, I believe. Dude Person. Experience for big Dude Perfect fans, maybe. Central Arkansas. All right. Well, Kool-Aid's not even in the top 10 of that list, I feel like.
No, I feel like going back and renaming my kids.
I mean, Mobility or Mobility. I didn't even get that.
Those are some great creative names. And
I will say this: you stick out. Like if a scout's looking at the roster.
Did you have a nickname?
Wilson, and my first name's Phil, so my friends would call me Phil sometimes, but nothing.
That's a nickname.
Nah,
Phil Wilson?
nothing exciting. Like not mobility or Dude Beers or whatever his name was. What was your nickname?
I had a couple.
Can you repeat them?
Otto was one.
Otto is a great nickname. I don't know what it means, but you look like you would be an Otto.
Yeah, just because of the German background. So
that's a good one. Otto's a good one.
Spielman, and then
Otto.
And then my dad called me Spoono all the time.
Spoono?
Spoon. Yeah.
How come?
Because I couldn't announce Spielman when I was younger.
Oh, okay.
I called Spoonman all the time.
That's funny. Your dad called you Spoon. Yeah. What were your brother's nicknames?
Ogre
and Otto. Was he grumpy?
He walked around like an ogre. He had knuckles that dragged on the floor.
Oh my gosh. You're not doing anything to disabuse Pete's notion of what he called you and your brother.
Meatheads.
Debo, what was your nickname? What do you think Debo's nickname was? Casanova, something like that?
No.
Gardner Minshew. What was your nickname, Debo?
I mean, all variations of my last name. For a bit there, some people called me Bones because I was made up of just skin and bones. And
that's true.
And that is to this day.
Did anyone call you Boner, like from that show with Christian Cameron and Leonardo DiCaprio?
No.
You remember that show?
No one knows it. No.
The sitcom. It was actually pretty popular.
Yeah. Your comps are even bad on this.
Yeah, fair enough. Hey, listen, I'm no Dakota Spears. I'll just say that. All right, let's go. That was good, Debo. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for making sure I didn't go too fast, so I didn't recognize the poll that I won to make it 6-3. Well, again, moral victory for the Wilson team, for Team Wilson. All right, Otto, let's do this.
Is it like the fourth quarter and you're getting blown out? And
100%.
Third team in there, and so you got to score at the end of the game.
We scored a 2-yard touchdown with 1 minute to go and lost by 48. So we will take that. That is something.
I think the fans out there, the people watching, may start feeling sorry for you.
Listen, it's something to build on. That's the speech you give at the end of the game.
That's what I said. Maybe you and the fans should get together against me on the comps.
All right, we'll work on that. All right, let's take a quick break before we get to the rest of these guys, and then we'll come back and talk about some more cornerbacks and safeties.
Get breaking news.
Big news coming out of the NFL today.
Highlights and instant reactions.
The largest final round comeback in Ford championship history. We're down to the final four.
I just want to take time to analyze greatness.
Talk winners and losers with a guy who's already a big winner.
CBS Sports HQ. It's all sports all day long.
All right, Rick, we're moving on. Past Kool-Aid, who we all like. Top 15 pick, we feel like. Next on our list, our aggregate rankings. Kalen King, the cornerback out of Penn State. You had him number 2 on your list, and I had him number 3.
Huh?
So we'll talk about that in a second. But cornerback, Penn State, unofficially 5'10 and 189. Listed as a 4.47 guy. I think he plays plenty fast. Had 3 interceptions last year. He is a animal in run support. The game I watched, he slipped a lot, so I don't know if that's just a cleat issue, but coming out of breaks, he a lot of times was struggling to get out of those breaks on comebacks and whatnot. But maybe that's just the field conditions. Other players weren't slipping, but either way. I liked a lot of what he did in terms of his ability to cover. He plays with an edge. You like to have cornerbacks who are willing to tackle. I thought sometimes he's a little out of control coming downhill to make tackles and after the catch, and you like the fact that he's there. You like him to be a little bit more under control. Let's see. I noted that I like to see him do a better job of getting off some perimeter blocks in terms of being the force defender on the outside there in the run game. But I feel like he has a chance to be drafted pretty high. And I'll ask you this, and I've asked you this about Dallas Turner playing opposite Will Anderson. Does it help? Does it matter that he's playing opposite Joey Porter and teams don't want to throw in that direction?
I think it helped him because everybody was not throwing towards Joey Porter. He was the one that was getting targeted the most, and to me, he responded. And the reason I liked him number 2 is technically he has some things to get cleaned up. All that stuff about the slipping, all that is technical issues that can be corrected with coaching. But I love his aggressiveness, and that's hard to find at corners. If you're going to rate him, he'd be one of the upper echelon corners as far as run support. When you talk about him coming out of control when he's closing to the ball at times in space, that can be corrected as well. What you can't teach is his aggressiveness, his twitch, his speed, And also, I think he has a knack for stripping a receiver of the ball and very aggressive that way. So all of the flaws or the negativity that you saw or that you just talked about, I think could all be fixed with technical coaching, because you can't teach the kid's attitude and the kid's grit and the kid's toughness. And the kid has that savvy that you look for in a corner and that mentality. He did struggle last year some versus Harrison.
Okay. I'll give him that one.
Yeah, that's where I'm excited to see, not to lead into your drum roll here, but the rematch against Ohio State next year against those two receivers.
Yeah, Joey Porter had a really good game against Marvin Harrison in that matchup as well. And we've talked about Olu Fashanu, the left tackle, matched up against some of those edge rushers, Ohio State. So there's a lot of reasons to be excited about round 2 of Ohio State, Penn State. And I'm pretty sure you mentioned Ohio State as the matchup you want to see going up against the left tackle Fashanu as well.
Yeah, but yeah, he gave up. He got beat twice downfield versus Harrison Jr., and it was more of a technical thing, but he made a really nice, showed the ball awareness, made a really nice interception in the Utah game.
And he also made a nice contested catch in the game Hail Mary interception against Michigan State, ball in the middle of the field. He's only listed at 5'10", 5'11", and he went up with a receiver and came down with the ball. And those are the things you like to see. And to your other point about you like his aggressiveness, you know, as BMAC always says, you rather have, the coach always says, rather have to tell you whoa than sick him. And you're telling Kalen King, whoa, you're not begging him to go out there and hit somebody. He's looking for someone to hit, looking to make a play. He was my cornerback, 2 of the guys we watched here, but I actually had someone else ahead of him at 2. We'll talk about him in a second. But let's get to the comps here. We talked about the game to watch Ohio State. And before we do the comps, let's see the draft range. I had him as a second rounder, it feels like right now, but that's room to improve.
He'll be a first rounder.
You think so?
Yep. He'll be below 15, but he'll be in the first round.
Okay. You're not concerned
Just look
about
at the history, okay? If these guys have a good year and they run fast, they're going to go in the first round, because the premier positions that go in the first round are offensive tackles, pass rushers, and cover guys. And look at, you just went through the stat on how many guys, Ryan, last year, if we did this last year, which Debo didn't have the foresight to have us start this last summer, he waited till after the season.
Yeah, Debo.
If you would have said those corners that all went last year that you named, would they have been listed as first round picks?
Oh, no.
For the season.
I'll give you credit. You were on Emmanuel Forbes early in the fall, but he wasn't in the first round conversation among the media last October.
No.
Devin Witherspoon wasn't because of the size.
Right.
And well, and he can, you know, like Kalen King, he'll hit you in the run game too.
Right.
But Devin Witherspoon ran, what do you run, the 4.3s,
low 4.4s. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Ryan, should I revisit your early 2023 mock and see the
I would love that.
Yeah.
All right.
For it.
I'm going to run through this.
Okay. All right. You got it with you? You got to look it up.
I have it. Keely
right.
Ringo.
Oh, boy.
But everybody kind of agreed upon that.
Yeah.
I did it. But you didn't ask me, Debo, last summer.
You were going through contract negotiations, demanding a high, everything you need for this show.
Podcast salary.
You had Brandon Joseph out of Notre Dame, safety.
Yeah, I think he would have drafted. Yeah.
You're so much better this year.
Yeah, I did not look at this, Ryan. I'm sorry, before I started scrolling through it. Eli Ricks.
Oh my God.
There were high expectations for Eli Ricks, and he had a great week 1 preseason. All right,
Joey Porter Jr.
Okay. He officially is a first rounder. He went 32nd.
Yep. And the final one was Jordan Battle out of Alabama.
Oh my
32.
God. What?
He went in the 3rd round. He went higher than I thought.
Yeah. Well, you had him in the first round.
That was literally May of 2022 that I did that.
Whenever. Okay. If we're going to make excuses on the show, then let's continue to do that. But I will guarantee you, Debo, that this summer scouting school series will be much more accurate than Ryan trying to throw darts against the board.
You can say crap against the wall, which is what I'm doing. I admit it. I say, even I think at the top of that thing, I say this is more of a players to watch than a mock, because I don't know what I'm talking about. But
so you're one of those scouts that kind of cover your arse as we.
Here's the thing. I had just come off.
Remember what I said. You give me your honest opinion. We'll get it fixed before the draft.
Ryan, I'll say by the time you kind of came back around after the summer.
There we go. Yeah. There we go. Let's team up against Rick
after
again.
You came around after the summer and did your summer scouting last year without Rick's presence. You also had mentioned Clark Phillips, Cam Smith.
Yeah, Cam had a rough. Yeah, I don't know if that's helping. It's helping a little bit, but those guys
and Antonio Johnson. Again,
Antonio Johnson's a guy who's having a good camp. I don't know why he went in the 5th round. We still don't know. We talked about this the other day, I think. I think I'm going to sound like our buddy Pete here. I will be proven right, Rick.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad. I'm excited for you to be proven right.
Oh, but here's what I wanted to mention.
Does anyone feel sorry for me that you guys always team up against me? Why am I always got to be the villain on this show?
That's the role you choose, Rick. So Devin Witherspoon isn't 6 feet tall, but again, he has special talents. Emmanuel Forbes, I think he's north of 6 feet, but he weighed 165 or whatever. Gonzalez looks like he's, he was built in a factory. Deonte Banks the same. Joey Porter the same. Juju Brent's the same. Who's the next cornerback drafted early in round 2. Not a lot of guys who are 5'11", 189, 4'47". Like those numbers are okay. Like they're probably just slightly above average speed-wise, average for height and weight. But you're okay with that in terms of first-round talent?
It's me against the world. Yes.
What does that mean?
That means you and Debo say I'm wrong, but I'm going to say I'm going to right. He'll be in the first round.
Okay.
He'll be a first-round corner.
No, I don't think you're wrong. I'm just curious.
I'm just put that in the can, Debo, so we can play that after the draft next year.
Oh gosh, this guy's
dollar bet.
Yeah,
dollar bet.
Definitely a dollar bet. Yeah. No, I like him. But as we've noted throughout the summer scouting series, I undervalue where these guys are going, and you keep telling me I should overvalue them. So maybe I'll learn, maybe I won't.
Yeah.
As I tell my 16-year-old, you'll figure it out one way or the other. There's only so much talking I can do. All right, let's move on here. Oh, no, we do the comp. Sorry. You get me all discombobulated. All right, you can go first this time. Who's your comp?
Denzel Ward.
This is a rich comp.
Denzel
you think
Ward.
Marshawn for Kool-Aid is rich. Denzel coming out. He was probably just below Marshawn, I felt like. He wasn't better than Marshawn coming out.
I agree.
Yeah, I thought they were close. All right, so you think Kalen King. So Kalen King's going, if Kool-Aid goes 15, Kalen King's going 20th.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I get it. I went with Janoris Jenkins more because of the size. Rick's face is about to contort.
No, it's the old, like, when you played cards and you try to guess where the queen is. I think Debo does all these polls, and the one that you win, that's the one he's going to show on the show.
Well, I'm sure Debo, if I had to guess and speak for Debo, he knows that most folks, a lot more people know who Kool-Aid McKinstry is than probably Kalen King at this point in the process, except for, Penn State fans and hardcore draft nerds. But I thought,
for the most part, I did your top-ranked prospect for all positions. Quarterback, you guys agreed on everything, and we're sharing kind of notes before that show. But other than that, it was the top prospect.
Okay.
And then maybe one that I manipulated in Ryan's favor because he was down bad.
Thank you, Debo.
There they go. Rick the villain.
So speaking of nicknames, Janoris goes by, I think he goes by Jackrabbit now. I don't know if that's officially been changed, but I know him as Janoris, but he's Jackrabbit when you look him up. But I like his physicality for a little guy, and that's sort of what drew me to Kalen King. But either way, he's going in the first round. Book it. Congratulations, Kalen King. You will be a first round pick. I do like this game though. All right, moving on. Going to safety now, Rick. We're going out west to USC. Oh, and this was so this guy, Kalen Bullock out of USC, was your number 5. If I am looking at the list correctly.
Yes, and barely.
And he was my number 2. So this is going to be interesting. All right. So number 1, he had 5 interceptions last year. Rick doesn't care about turnovers is what I'm hearing. Love that part of his game. Doesn't offer anything in the return game, just as a note. Listed at 6'3", 190, 4'49" guy unofficially. Long frame, but he's incredibly thin lower half. And I would imagine some of your concerns are where do you play him? And coming downhill, helping in the run support and all that. He played deep safety, a lot of cover 1 and cover 2. Even some USC played a lot of those 3 safety looks in the middle of the field. So he played primarily deep. I thought he was smooth in his movements in the middle of the field. He wasn't stiff at all in terms of changing directions, had sideline to sideline coverage ability, not an enforcer in the run game. And it's, you look at him walking down the street, you could probably figure that out. Make the tackle, but he's not a thumper. More sort of throws his body in the way. I thought he needs to get stronger and more willing to help in that area. But I liked his ability in the pass game. The run game is going to raise some questions.
I agree. Like his length, needs to add bulk and strength to his game. Needs to be more consistent tackling, and as a run defender, especially if you're the last line of defense in the back end. But he does have range. He did show ball skills to go up and get it, which is important. I don't know where you got that. And I thought
he had five interceptions, and you don't have
I mean, you said I think it is important to have ball instincts and awareness. That's like the number one trait for DB.
Okay.
But I thought he was a solid day 2 pick. But I didn't think he was in the first round conversation off what I see.
No, we agree on that 100%. Yeah. I had him in the same range, and I officially had him as what? Kalen Bullock. I had him as a day 2 guy, early to mid day 2. Okay.
So,
we agree
so
on
far,
that.
the 3 guys we talked about, you only have 1 DB this year going in the first round, which I'll bet $1 that there's more than 1 DB goes in the first round.
So just for a peek behind the curtain for people listening and watching, Rick sends me, I say, Rick, send me your name of guys that you've watched. And then, because Rick does his homework early, and then I'll circle back and watch those guys. And then I text you yesterday of a name, and you text me another name. And both those names that we'll discuss at the end, I think, have chances to sneak into the first round as well.
Right.
So, yeah, so far I only have 1 first rounder. Again, I'm undergrading. I'll learn my lesson or I won't. And, all right, what game are you interested in for Kalen Bullock?
The Washington game with McMillan and Odunze.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. You got it.
Those are the 2 receivers, the best receivers out in the almost defunct Pac-12 now.
Right. I mean, it's crazy. And Michael Penix Jr. as the quarterback.
Yeah. So I think that will be a true test for him going against those 2 caliber of receivers plus the quarterback.
Yeah. And Odunze is he ain't sleight of frame, so you're gonna have to bring him down. So
Yeah.
if you're gonna tackle, that's the day you might want to decide to do it. All right, who's your comp for Kalen Bullock?
I had to go back into the Minnesota Viking days.
Talking about cheating, you think Debo's rigging the election? You just go back to your Viking scouting reports.
And I'm going to go with Javon Curse because of the length, because Javon was skinny, or when he came out of Clemson, we didn't draft him till the 7th round because he didn't run real well. But the one thing that changed in Curse was that he became much more physical as a football player, and his body matured than he was when he initially came out, because I had issues with his tackling when he came out of Clemson.
How do you fix that, though? Is that coaching?
I think it's a little bit of coaching. It's a little bit of physically maturing. But he did have some swagger to him. I think this kid has some swagger to him.
Yeah.
And that was one of the 7th round picks that probably outperformed where we were able to draft him. It's playing very well for Dallas right now. So I saw a lot of similarities to when Javon Curse came out.
I went with Kirby Joseph, and it's not a perfect comp. The different body type, just the ball skills. That's all I focused on was the ball skills. Good. I know it's killing you. There was was his name Pat Watkins? There was a Watkins from Florida State 15, 20 years ago who was like 6'4" and played deep safety. There aren't very many safeties that are 6'3". That's the other thing.
No.
And weigh 180 pounds or 190 is what he's listed at Kalen Bullock.
Ryan, do you want to correct Rick on that name that he was saying before the people in the comments jump in?
Oh, he didn't say J-Ron?
I think, some people may be confused for the Florida Gator defensive end.
Oh, I didn't hear that. I wasn't paying attention. Who did you say the Gator defensive end was?
There's Javon Curse, and then there's J-Ron Curse.
Oh, J-Ron. You said Javon Curse? You said the freak?
Yeah, it's J-Ron Curse.
J-Ron, you got it. All right, yeah. Just because people in the comments get mad if we get one thing wrong.
Yep. And then it'll be like, spill me, you drafted the guy. You don't even know his first name. What the hell is the matter with you?
I thought you said J-Ron anyway. Where did Javon Curse go to school? Oh, Debo just told us.
Yeah.
Dang it, Debo. The freak. He was special. But J. Ryan Kearse has certainly outplayed his draft stock at the number 7. Thank you, Debo, for that. What else I was going to say about the Kalen Bullock, the deep safety position? I know Kirby Washington you don't love. Kirby Joseph you don't love as the comp, but I was thinking more ball skills. And I like Kirby coming out, and people were concerned about his speed. He didn't run at his pro day, didn't run at the combine, and that's one of the things you sort of have to, again, we've talked about figuring out.
And I could see that comp because when he came out, he did have good ball skills. I had some questions on his tackling ability, and he's improved. So there's a couple of examples of Bullock becoming a better tackler and more physical as a player because you've seen it in Kearse, you've seen it in Joseph. So
is Kirby penciled in to be the starter?
Yeah, he'll be the starter. He'll be the starter opposite of Gardner Johnson and Branch in the slot as a Nick.
Aaron Glenn is quite happy about that development.
Very happy.
Things are changing. All right, let's take a quick break. We'll come back and hit these final 2 players in terms of cornerbacks and safeties.
You up for playing outside the lines?
What are her directives then?
Neutralize the target.
You do it quiet and you do it clean.
If your cover is blown, you have to save yourself.
Did you hit the target?
I'm doing everything different this time. She's your field agent. Do what you think's best.
All right, Rick. For folks listening to the audio version of this, we just had a commercial for Lioness, and
I'm calling you this weekend when I get home. I need to start watching that.
That's good. You're missing out on Paramount Plus. Zoe Saldana, one of my favorite actors. All right, let's go to Georgia now. We'll talk about Javon Bullard. Sort of listed as safety, but he's a nickel. And he plays solely nickel. At least that's what we saw at Georgia. Man in zone. He's a dog, as the kids say. I had only 2 interceptions last season, but he saved them for the TCU game, the final. Great timing there. One was a Max. I don't know what Max Duggan was doing, throwing. He had Quentin Johnson wide open in the middle of the field on a deep post and overthrown him by 80 yards, it felt like. But a great over-the-shoulder catch by Bullard to track the ball in the air. He looked like the receiver on that play. And then there's another play closer to TCU's end zone where he jumped a route and again, showed good hands. I like this guy. Now, he's playing on a defense where everyone is balling out, but he's still making plays. And I think that's the takeaway there. I thought he played with a lot of confidence. He's smooth. His movements didn't fall for double moves. Won't get out physical to the top of the route, even though he's unofficially listed at 5'10", 180. He's listed as a 4.56 guy. He doesn't play that slow to me. And 4.56 isn't. Let me ask this, Rick. Is it better to be 4.56 and have to kick inside or be on an island outside?
4.56, if you're twitchy, and this kid is exceptionally quick.
Yeah.
When I say twitchy, that I think that as a Nick corner, you can get away with maybe some less speed. You know, the biggest thing is when you get extended down the field, down the seams, or if you get in a foot race across the field on deep crossing routes.
Right.
But this is a kid that played a lot faster than whatever the heck you came up with that estimate.
I think it was from it wasn't from me, it's just from, folks that I talked to. But you liked him is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Love this kid.
All right. Let's see here. I had him as a day 2 guy. How do you feel about that?
Of course you would. Why wouldn't you?
You think he sneaks into the first round?
Yes.
My goodness. Wait a second now. Listen, if Brian Branch doesn't go in the first round and these numbers bear out, Javon Bullard's not going ahead of Brian Branch.
Okay.
That's your response. Okay. Okay. Well, so he's still, I would imagine there's no plans of moving him anywhere other than the Nick. I know they lost.
Let me ask you this, okay? Because how scouts become better scouts is if you liked Brian Branch, but you were scared of the speed, and he goes and has a great rookie year and shows what he started to show in the preseason already, and you think this kid is a comparable, not that I'm giving ATs, wouldn't you say, well, listen, we were a little low on Brian Branch. We probably should. He's probably worthy of a later first-round pick. I'm thinking this kid is going to sneak definitely into the bottom of the first round if he continues to play the way he plays.
You know what? That's a great point. And I'll tell you I'm overthinking. Here's what I do. So when I go to watch the players, I get their height, weight, and speed, unofficial at this point, and go from there. I think what I'm going to start doing, I'm not going to look at their height, weight, or speed.
I don't look at anything. I don't look at comps.
You didn't tell me that. I've known you for 2 years. You didn't tell me.
All I do is look at the tape. And all I want to see is, does this kid excite me when I watch him play? This was one of the kids that really got me excited. I enjoyed watching him. It's like after you go through 2 or 3 games, and you're bored, then okay, he's a good player or whatever. But when you say I've watched 2 or 3 games, I could watch another 3 or 4 games on this kid because of his style of play. Those are the type of football players that got me excited.
No, that's great advice. I'm going to stop looking at height, weight, speeds, unofficial or otherwise, and just watch the player. Part of the issue is
that's good advice, but Rick also doesn't know how to access the internet.
That's also true. He can't punch in the numbers on his pewter, so he just hits the play button.
I just hit the play button, go back and forth on the pewter.
Yeah. See, my OCD, I have to have everything organized. So I get everything organized, then I watch the player. I'm gonna have to do it in reverse. I watch the player and then worry about the stuff later. All right. Yes. All right. We'll see if that changes. So we got to do the whole summer scouting thing over again. I'm hearing. We got to watch all the players again.
I'm good I feel pretty confident in my evaluations to date. So
I don't know if we talked about this on the show before the show, but when's the last time you watched this many players by August?
Never.
No, maybe, that's not true.
No, when I was a scout.
Bledsoe, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I did about 250 guys in the summer.
Gosh. The guys have been on a break for a while, though. They've knocked these guys out for a month or so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Well, getting back. Who knows? Maybe you'll go back to Bledsoe.
Yeah.
All right. So Javon Bullard, you like him a lot. Great advice. Don't worry about the height, weight, speed. Just watch the player. He's really good. I don't think watching him, he's not better than Brian Branch, disregarding the measurables. I like Brian Branch a little more, but it's close. Like, it's a lot closer when you put it in that light. So, all right, fair enough. I'll give you that. Brian Branch should have been a first-round pick. And look, that also sort of supports your point. In the fall, everyone thought Brian Branch would be a 4.5 guy, maybe faster. So when I watched him, I didn't care about his speed because he played plenty fast, and I always had him going in those first-round mock drafts, and then he ran the 4.6 whatever. Didn't run at the Alabama Pro Day, right?
No.
Yeah, and it is what it is, but he's going to be a starter in Detroit, and I think he's going to be really good. Okay, who is let's go first to the games to watch. Who do you want to see Javon Bullard go up against?
Oh, I kind of looked. I didn't see Georgia's schedule and any great receivers that he's going to have to go against. I mean, I was really scraping the bottom of the barrel, so I had to wait. I'm just going to say I'm going to wait and see who they match up in the postseason, and hopefully they'll play against a top flight receiver. But their schedule this year, I really didn't see. They don't play LSU, and I didn't see really a top flight receiver that I was excited to see that matchup. So I'm sorry, Debo. I didn't want to make something up. I'm just going off of waiting for the postseason.
I'm surprised you didn't pull the old Alabama trick and say practice. Ladd McConkey might be his biggest competition. And Brock Bowers out of the Nick. Maybe that's a matchup he'll see a little bit. That'll make you better. And he may not face anyone as good as Brock Bowers in the postseason either.
No.
All right, let's do the comps. You mentioned Brian Branch. You want to give the other Detroit Lion, Minnesota Vikings pipeline?
Yeah, the other one was Gardner Johnson too. So I kind of went more, but I see him. Gardner Johnson, when he came out, was that he didn't tackle very well coming out of Florida.
No, he did not.
That's why he fell. Brian Branch tackled. So that's why I went with Brian Branch. But because of the Nick safety flexibility, that's why those two kind of fit in that category. But after I contemplated everything, I went with Brian Branch.
This is also, I'm realizing this has affected my comps because I look at the height weights. That's what I base them on. So my comp is going to be Brian Branch and Chauncey Gardner-Johnson too. I don't want to say my comp. I went with Jacoby Durant out of South Carolina State, who actually I loved him coming out. He'll be the next starter for the Rams. He's smallish, but I think he went in the third round. He may have been a surprise. He may have gone surprised higher than I thought, but I thought he was a good football player. Javon Bullard obviously has a chance to be better than that, according to Rick.
Yeah.
All right. I have a new lease on life in terms of scouting these players. I'm not going to look at height, weights, or speeds. I'm just going to watch. Looking forward to that. All right. Let's go to number 5 on our list. Collectively, You had him number 4, and I had him number 5. Denzel Burke, cornerback out of Ohio State. And I'll be interested to hear you sell me on Denzel because I liked him. I didn't love him. He doesn't have any return ability, and that's fine. I'm just noting that because some of these cornerbacks do. No interceptions in 2022. He's unofficially, just for people listening, 5'11", 189, 4.5 guy. And I thought he looked a little stiff at times on comebacks, and that because this led to separation from the receiver. I thought he got handsy at times at the top of routes, and Rick, you've talked ad nauseum about how that's something you can coach out of the player, but just something that I noted. He was a little stiff on covering slants and sometimes got pushed off the route by stronger, more physical wide receivers. That said, I thought he did a good job of understanding leverage and where his help was in coverage. Did really well in zone concept and get called ball watching. He's a wrap-up tackler in space, and he can meet the ball at the catch point. And he did well in scramble drill. Like he did well to pass to the wide receiver and show the ability to run with the receiver on deep routes. So there are things that I liked, but in terms of where I had him ranked on the 5 players we've talked about so far, I thought he was clearly not a bad football player, but clearly 5 for me.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. I was truly expecting more when I watched this tape, and I was very disappointed. And watching last year's tape, I think he's more than athletic enough. I think you're wrong there. I think he has his size and speed and quick, all of that is there. I just think he needs to play with more strength and run support. I think he has to have more dog in him. I agree he needs to be more patient versus double moves and reading receivers out of their break. He doesn't anticipate like some of the other guys that we talked about.
Hey, Rick, sorry to interrupt you. How do you coach more dog into a player, though? Because that goes
I don't know if you can.
Okay.
So that's what you try as you go through this pre-draft process. You try to figure out whether they have that or not. That's why you take all these psychological tests and all these other tests that you try to figure out what makes this player tick. Why does he play football? The physical tools are all there.
Right.
I just want to see if he has more dog or more fight in this dog than he showed in 2022.
I'm laughing because I'm looking at your games to watch, and that you're going back to the old Alabama tried and true practice because, between Abuka and Marvin Harrison Jr., it ain't going to get any tougher than that.
Nope.
So, and he played primarily outside. Yep. He played a little bit of slot, but mostly outside.
Outside. He's an outside guy.
Okay, so that's Denzel Burke, not quite up to the level of the other cornerbacks. Doesn't mean he can't be, just from what we watched off of last year's tape. Now, you have him still as a possible first, second round guy?
Yep.
Oh, man. This feels like, I have to look it up real quick. I can't think of his name. The cornerback who's now on the Ravens, who came out of Ohio State, who was a lot of pub about in his last few years there. Let me see if I can find him. I probably won't be able to. Just wasting time here. I'll look it up in a second. I feel like I don't know. I feel like we're trying to put a round peg into a square hole here. I don't know if he's a first round guy, but
if you went off just this year's tape, I would say no. I would agree with you there.
Okay.
If I'm anticipating that he will play, and I just went and looked back at one game in 2021.
Yeah.
And it was a different player. So I don't know why the difference was. So
and sometimes what happens is players get hurt and they don't talk about it, and that affects the way they play. So all right, fair enough. That's
this kid has all the physical traits to be a first round talent.
Yeah.
He just has to play to that level. And he did in 21 off the brief view that I had, because I've heard some things that he was a lot better in 21 than 22. I don't know why he wasn't as good in 22.
Okay.
But I was disappointed in 22. But if he got back to the flashes that I seen in 21 and he plays like that this year, that he'll end up in the first round.
Good point. That's worth noting, because last year.
How many good points? I make a lot of good points, even though I'm the villain on this podcast.
Yeah, you're like the evil genius. That's what you are. No, you've made some. This has been your most enlightening podcast, so I appreciate you finally coming around. 72 episodes in, helping me out a little bit, making me a better evaluator. All right, so that makes your comp a little less insane. So who's your comp? Because you're looking at the totality of Denzel Burke's work, which means going back to look at 2021, even where he played better.
And I didn't study all 21. I'm just saying I watched one game.
Yeah, but you noted
flashes.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, who's your comp?
Stephon Gilmore was my comp.
That's one of the richest comps you've come up with so far. All right. Well, look, man, Denzel, I hope you end up being Stephon Gilmore because that would be a great story and it would make Rick very happy. He would finally win one of these comp polls, I think. I went with a little less rich Levi Wallace, and that's just based on a lot of things that aren't
just give me
about.
one thing you base that one on.
Size.
Okay.
I told you. I gave up on the comp race 3 or 4 episodes ago. All right, Rick, let's quickly run through these guys. I thought based on 22 tape that I saw that Denzel was an early day 3 guy. Like I thought maybe you like the measurables. He maybe goes early 4th round. But as you know, there's other stuff to watch. The stuff I saw, I couldn't talk myself into it. Okay. But I have a new lease on life when it comes to evaluating players. No height, no weight.
You start over evaluating players. So
everybody. And here's the thing: you and our buddy Prisco made fun of me for loving everybody last year. What's going to happen now that I have
oh my god,
all the guardrails are off? All right, let's talk quickly about a couple of the guys we didn't get to, but I watched them, and I was really impressed with these guys. So Nate Wiggins, the cornerback out of Clemson, he's still 19 years old. I don't like to talk a lot about these guys who aren't yet sure they're coming out. But, oh, boy, you talk about long, athletic, smooth. He will not tackle anyone in the run game. But, man, he can lock up anybody. Yeah, he's outside guy. Woo.
Shut down, lock down, man corner.
Yeah. You don't see – I think I put a comp for it. Let me see who I put the comp. I didn't put it on the rundown, but who's the comp for him? I went crazy. I said, oh, you're not going to like this. I said a little bit of Christian Gonzalez, but also a little Antonio Cromartie.
Okay.
Wow.
Cromartie didn't hit anyone either.
Right. That's part of it. And does Nate, I think Nate returned a few kicks too. So, and Cromartie obviously did that. Okay. The other guy, and this is a completely different body type, Cooper DeJean, the cornerback out of Iowa. He's listed at, I think he's 6'1", 209. Played opposite Riley Moss, our guy from last year. A lot to like with his game too. Completely different body type, but he can run. He's physical. He's athletic. He feels like an Iowa football player. Defensively anyway. Offense had some questions last year. He's another guy that has a chance to be a first-round pick, I think.
Yeah, I just didn't know where to put him, a corner or safety.
You know what? I scribbled that down, and we said the same thing about Riley Moss. Is that because he's white or because of his size?
I didn't have any issues with white Moss playing corner.
I didn't either, but we heard people say that.
Yeah. This one, I think Moss is a little faster, in my opinion.
Yeah. Moss was, I thought Moss, up until the Senior Bowl, timed better than he played. Although I thought he was good, incredibly smart at Iowa on the tape.
Right.
Yeah.
And the only reason this guy couldn't find a spot for him yet, and I'll wait till this year, is because I don't think he is as fast as Moss.
Okay. All right. Unofficially, in case you're interested, he was listed as a 4.49 guy. We'll see. I mean, it feels crazy to think that he's faster than Javon Bullard, the Nick we were talking about at Georgia, but we'll find out together. And then finally, the last name I'll mention is Josh Newton, the cornerback out of TCU. Yeah. Listed at almost 5'11", 188. He's a 6-year senior, so he's a little older. I don't have his age, though. But again, he was physical throughout the route. He had 3 interceptions last year, 1 pick 6. And I thought he did a lot of things that were – he was good against the run. I'm looking at my notes here just to circle back. I liked him as well. He's another guy that could be, I don't know, top 50, top 75 guy.
Yep.
All right.
These guys are going to pop up, and there's going to be 5 or 6 that go in the first round, like every year. If you took a poll and Debo did his research instead of,
You wonder why you're the villain?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Why am I the villain? That he would say, on average, over the last 5, 6, 10 years, this is how many corners and safeties go in the first round. And I bet you it's an average, and I'm just taking it off the top of my head, a minimum of 5 a year.
Well, it was 5 last year if you count Joey Porter Jr. as 32nd overall. And as Debo so ingloriously pointed out, reading my mock draft from May of 2022, a lot's going to change between the end of the previous draft and the next draft, because guys come out of nowhere. Like no one was talking about Devin Witherspoon or Emmanuel Forbes last May, and here Deonte Banks wasn't even on the radar at this point last season.
No one knew him.
Where was Gonzalez?
He transferred
Yeah, from Colorado. But where were you kind of thinking about him?
I don't know if I was talking a lot about him at this point, but Rick and I weren't doing as he noted. Rick noted, Debo, you hadn't put the podcast together yet, so we didn't have a chance to do our summer scouting series last year.
No, and I didn't even know I was doing college scouting till December.
He was making Neymar demands. He wanted like
Neymar money,
$500K every time he mentioned with the first pick on Twitter.
That sounds like Rick. All right, Rick, that's it. We've got to get you out of the top of the hour. We're a few minutes over, but that is a wrap on episode 72. If you haven't yet, give us a little thumbs up, subscribe to the podcast, and give us a 5-star review if you like what we do. Thanks, as always, to my guy, Rick. Thanks to Debo for producing, and thanks to all you guys who watch and listen. We'll be back next week. Oh, Massillon. That's the school song. Sing it. Sing it, Rick.
I don't know that either.
All right, next week we'll be back, and Rick will have been inducted into the Massillon High School Hall of Fame, and we'll do some standout performances from preseason week 2, so check that out as well. Congratulations, Rick.
Go.